the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast, where we discuss all things crypto related. Your host, Kieran Ryan.
South Africa has been removed from the Financial Action Task Force grey list, but does that mean that we're over the hump when it comes to anti-money laundering and terrorism financing? There are new dangers that are posing problems for exchanges in the form of highly sophisticated fraud schemes, and AI has been an exceptional gift to fraudsters because of its ability to impersonate and steal someone's identities. There are now voice mimicking tools that make it sound like you're talking to the actual individual who owns the account. And crypto, of course, remains a popular means of executing fraud schemes. Well, to explore this, we're joined now by Langa Nkabinde, Head of Compliance at Easy Equities. Hi, Langa. Thanks for joining us. You're pretty much involved in this on a day-to-day basis. Tell us about some of these red flags that you look for as a compliance officer, and to what extent is crypto also being used as the means of transacting for fraudsters?
One of the things that we observe quite frequently, actually, is what is referred to as rapid in, rapid out. So that's where a large deposit is deposited into a client's account and then subsequently withdrawn within a very short period of time. And obviously, we monitor transactional behavior. And when our automated transaction monitoring system, based on a scoring, picks up that this activity is now prevalent, we then flag that account and it gets moved into high risk for monitoring purposes. And then we obviously conduct what is referred to as enhanced due diligence. So we ask questions about the source of funds, the source of wealth, expected frequency of deposits, etc. And where appropriate, we do reporting to the Financial Intelligence Center. So that's one of the things that we've observed. Others is what we call accelerated spike. So where an account, for example, deposits were like 100 rands, etc. per month, all of a sudden it's just these 10,000 deposits 4 times, 5 times in a month. We pick that up. And coincidentally, about 2022, when the FIC published new requirements to say that for cash deposits, the threshold is now 49,999. And what we then saw was that there would be a series of smaller deposits. So say 10 deposits of 5,000 Rand. And it seems that the fraudsters were like, okay, so the threshold is 50,000. So we're just going to make small little deposits, which then accumulate to 50,000. So then instead of having to report these sort of 10 transactions of 5,000, which was very onerous for us, the regulator was of the view that you don't need to. You just send one report for suspicious activity. So that was one of the things we picked up, and coincidentally, it happened right after those regulations came out. So it seems that the fraudsters also pick up on these things, and other money launderers. So those are just some of the examples.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to us about AI and how AI is assisting in this. I mean, I mentioned in the beginning these voice mimicking tools, and previously you and I were talking, and you were saying you are following up on one particular case where you phoned an individual who was the owner of an account, and it sounded like you were actually talking to the person. But tell us the story. There's a little bit more to it.
Yeah, so, I mean, typically in South Africa, the scourge that we face of identity theft is an important one, and it is one that is very unfortunate, whereby somebody's ID is taken and then accounts are opened in their name. So we had an instance where an individual purported to be somebody else. So they had an Easy Equities account, and they had opened it using details obtained outside of our environment of a particular individual. And then they were siphoning funds from this other individual's bank account. It was a high net worth individual. And then they were attempting to make withdrawals, which of course they couldn't, because the account, they don't have control of the bank account insofar as withdrawals are concerned in our environment. So we then obviously picked up on the suspicious activity. So the victim contacted us. And when we were then attempting to interact with the supposed account holder, Easy Equities account holder, we spoke to this individual and they sounded so much like the victim. It was incredible. But we in the background were also communicating with the victim's accountant, who then confirmed with us that, no, you were definitely not speaking to my client on that particular day. So yes, definitely it seems that when it comes to verification, if it's going to be done over the phone, there is that risk of voice cloning or the use of voice cloning, sophisticated technology, probably AI.
I mean, it does raise the question as a compliance officer. It seems like it's a highly challenging job and stressful because you've got AI progressing at such a speed that you're having to try and stay on top of these new ways of defrauding people. But I do want to go, because people listening to this will say, okay, how did they manage to get into my account? They impersonated me. I get that. You can mimic the voice. You can get a picture of the person. You can have their ID. But there are still controls when it comes to emptying somebody's bank account. So just talk about that.
Yes, I think I am very, very fortunate at Easy Equities that I have an excellent team, from executive to the IT, the background team, app support, the compliance team, the legal team, finance. And it is a cooperative effort. We do work together. And one of the controls we have in place is that where an account has been flagged by our automated transaction monitoring system for various transactions, some of which I just mentioned now, we then place it on withdrawal hold. And this is a feature that protects clients, the legitimate ones, but then also ensures that we are able to conduct enhanced due diligence to request source of funds, source of wealth, and other information. And then it also enables us to be able to report on various accounts. I think one of the features that has been highly appreciative by victims of fraud is that we're able to secure funds that have sort of migrated from a victim's bank account, which is outside of our environment, and then into our environment. We're able to secure those funds and then repatriate them. I think that has been one of the really, really very useful controls that we have in place.
All right, let's talk about Easy Equities. I think it's probably very, very familiar to the Moneyweb audience for stock exchange investing. But you also offer crypto. Just quickly run us through, what do you offer in terms of crypto?
Yes, so we do have sort of baskets and bundles in terms of crypto. We have, for example, the EC10, which is the top 10 best performing crypto, and it's risk weighted. So, for example, the 10th best is not performing as well as the 11th best. Then we do a rebalancing where we move the 11th best performing crypto into the top 10 bracket. And of course, that preserves your wealth, your investment. We have recently, in cooperation with other partners, we've participated in the launch of ZAR, which is a rand-pegged stablecoin. And that has a wealth of benefits for investors and consumers.
Is there a difference between a basket and a bundle?
It's similar. I mean, both are, I think if I can use a common denominator, both are wrappers, which is basically to say that you've got an instrument that has various other sub-instruments wrapped in one that you can invest in. So there is a slight difference, but I think not worth mentioning here, but yeah.
Right. Okay. And the equivalent to the kind of a crypto equivalent of a unit trust. I guess a question I have on that is the crypto market is down. Bitcoin is down by about 50% from its peak of last year. Do you find that the volumes tend to follow the prices? In other words, there's a little bit of apathy around crypto at the moment and volumes are down.
I think that's probably across the market. I mean, as my sort of day-to-day job as compliance, I don't sort of monitor markets as much as maybe my colleagues in the investment space. But yeah, I think what we've tended to see is that in certain terms of trading volume, that does obviously follow the performance of the asset. From a transactional monitoring perspective, on my side, I haven't seen sort of larger withdrawals from sort of crypto. We are still seeing deposits though here and there. We are seeing deposits in so far as investments in crypto are concerned. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about ZARU, the new stablecoin. You mentioned it. Now that's been there. You've got a number of partners in that. You've got ANRAM, you've got Luno, Easy Equities, and you've also got an auditor who does a regular audit of this. So, but I guess the question people would be asking is, do we need Rand stablecoins? There are a few. There's ZARX and there's a few other ones. There's Super ZAR, which has been launched by the Super Group, which owns Betway, the betting company. A question is being asked about why that's happening. But why do we need stable coins, and are they going to improve our lives?
Yes. So, I mean, I think in South Africa, we still have an informal, huge informal market economy. And one of the reasons why we have that is because people look to be able to move cash quickly, simply, efficiently, without incurring costs, and having costs eat into the value of their rand. So most South Africans tend to, and this is now in the formal sort of economy, most South Africans tend to not think about this friction, which I've just outlined now, so far as the informal market is concerned. So whenever you make a deposit or withdrawal into an Easy Equities account, you have to wait. You have to basically wait. But with ZARU, that does become sort of fixed, right? Because things become instant. So you don't have to wait for you to be able to access your funds. And it's exactly at this juncture that ZARU becomes quite important and quite relevant insofar as removing that friction. I think from a commercial perspective, you have a benefit for companies insofar as remittances are concerned, specifically in cross-border. And that becomes very, very easy and enabling to have a digital asset that you can move cross-border quite easily, but you still are able to hold on to the value of your rand because of the fact that you've got a digital asset that's pegged to the rand. So that's just one of the benefits. It's coming, it's here, and stable coins aren't just sort of like a niche experiment anymore. As you mentioned, even at last week's conference, we're not the only ones who have launched, but because of, I think, the fact that Easy Equities has such a huge client base and working with established partners, I think that this is, we're looking at the advent of something really, really great for South Africans. And of course, the financial inclusion aspect of it is quite important as well.
Right. I mean, stable coins, of course, is the big story in the crypto space at the moment. I mean, Bitcoin may be down by half, but there's massive growth in the stablecoin space, particularly in US dollar pegged stablecoins like Tether and USDC. And also the Euro stablecoins are also now becoming quite something. And the studies do show that once money enters into the stablecoin space, it tends to stay and doesn't go back into the fiat space. Is this something that you're expecting, that once people on-ramp to a stablecoin, they'll be able to transact within the Easy Equity space and remain, if they want to sell out of a share, can they then convert that into a ZARU, into the Rand stablecoin, and keep it there? Because to off-ramp for them would be expensive, right? And it would be slow.
Yes, and I think it would defeat the purpose because you want, where you topping up your Easy Equities account, you want that to be immediate. when you also withdraw, you also want that to be immediate. Now, of course, off-ramping into fiat, that would be up to the individual, but I think you are correct. It would be expensive, slow, cumbersome. And of course, like I said, it would defeat the purpose of, because you're converting your ZAR or your deposit into ZAR, to then sort of have access to the ease, swiftness of the use of the digital asset.
All right, final question here on something else that is affecting compliance officers in the crypto space. South African Revenue Services, they issued a crypto asset reporting framework. Now, people might have heard this and say, oh, God, here we go again. The taxman is after my crypto profits. But tell us exactly what this means for crypto investors.
So, I think 2011 already, we had the Common Reporting Standards, which were basically a requirement issued by the OECD countries, of which South Africa is a part, to say that financial institutions are compelled to report on the accounts that they have with their various clients to SARS. And then SARS, under the Automatic Exchange of Information framework, then they have a sort of centralized database that they share with other revenue authorities to then share that information across the OECD countries. So this was the Common Reporting Standard. It's been around for a while. And in 2025, the OECD, working with other G20 countries, created a framework whereby they're extending CRS, or Common Reporting Standard, to crypto. So what they're looking for specifically in the crypto asset reporting framework is that all holdings of crypto must be reported to the Revenue Authority. All financial transactions in crypto must be reported to the revenue authorities. So you've always been required to report to SARS your capital gains. So that hasn't changed. That hasn't been impacted at all. However, insofar as the financial institution holding your crypto account is concerned, you are required now to report on the crypto itself. So not anything related to ZAR, but the crypto, the transactions. We are now required to report that to SARS under the crypto asset reporting framework.
Okay, so the reporting, all transactions now will be reported to SARS. Okay.
Correct, yes.
Langa Nkabinde, we're going to leave it there. Compliance officer at Easy Equities. Thanks very much for that very short, brief, but impactful round trip through the life of a compliance officer on an exchange. Thank you, Langa.
Thank you very much, Syrian, and thank you to the Moneyweb listeners.
Thanks for listening to the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast, hosted by Kieran Ryan. To listen to our other podcasts, go to moneyweb.co.za or the Moneyweb app and follow Moneyweb News for daily updates.